Welcome to the fourth section of the course. In the previous section, we migrated a lot of code from the monolith to the microservices project, but we still have a long way to go until this is all operational and scalable.
In this video, we are going to take the connection strings from the monolith and import them to the microservices application so that we can get access to our SQL databases.
So you probably remember from the previous video that in our startup.cs class, we use the configuration object that is injected to the class by ASP.NET Course DI container at the constructor, and we use it to get the connection string of the identity database. Well, the thing is, Service Fabric doesn't work well with the configuration object in the app settings.json, so if we can't find the identity connection string there, then it's best that we search for an environmental variable called connection string. Now, notice how this is different. In the first case, we had to specify the identity name. Now, we just say connection string because we know that this microservice connects to only a single database. And we can keep these files empty while we import the connection string to the service manifest and specifically to the environmental variables section. We're going to refactor these and greatly improve them in one of the next videos, but for now, I'm just going to add a new environmental variable in the environmental variables section. Remember, envs are part of a code package. The configuration is part of the code package of every microservice. So I'm going to go right under the ASP.NET Core environmental variable, which as you can see is empty because it will be overridden by the application manifest, which is part of the application-wide project. In the case of the connection string, I'm going to hard code it for now, but remember, if I hard code it and leave it there, the service will attempt to connect to a local database located in the Azure cluster on the cloud, and obviously it's not going to find anything. So this needs change, but for now, let's place it here. I'm gonna type the connection string. It's exactly the same as it was for our monolithic application, with the slight difference that we have a database called identity now instead of a global my to-do list database. We have a specific database for this specific service because remember, microservices own their domain and their data. Now, apart from the connection string, it's also a good idea, since we're here, to also define other environmental variables like the issuer, the audience, and the JWT secret. Those need to be in sync at all services. If they're not, that means that our to-do service may not be able to authenticate a user, and a perfectly authenticated user may not be able to access the to-do service endpoints if we haven't have these in sync. How do we put them in sync? Because by placing them in each service manifest for each service is not the best practice. We will do that for now, but remember that we will change it in 3 or 4 videos from now to a way that we can keep them in sync and import them at the override section of application manifest. But for now, let's stick with that and see that it's working. So back to the startup.cs. Apart from the connection string, I'm also going to need to use the double question marks here, or remove it altogether and go ahead and use the environment.getEnvironmentalVariable function. This will help us get the variable that will be loaded to the environment that will run our Service Fabric application when it's deployed either to the local cluster or to Azure. So just like that, I'm going to get the secret at a separate variable and use it after that when we create the symmetric security key. So I'm going to replace the configuration accessor with JWT secret here. Perfect.
Now that we've handled the basics of environmental variables, let's move on and continue our to-do service. In order to do that, I'm gonna go to the My To-Do List application, the monolith, and I'm gonna copy the to-dos controller so that we can get up and running with our to-do service as well. Remember, so far we've created 2 of the 3 services that we're gonna work with. One of them is the identity service, and the second one is the to-do service. We still have the mail service waiting, but for now, I'm gonna copy this controller. You can see that we have 3 attributes there: the route, the fact that this is an API controller, plus the fact that we need only authorized users to be able to access these routes. So back in the microservices application, I'm going to create a new controller. I'm going to choose the simplest template, the empty template, and I'm going to call it to-dos controller. Just wait a few seconds until Visual Studio finishes initializing the controller. And here it is. I'm going to remove all the template code and paste the one I copied over from the monolith. And now, of course, we need to make the necessary imports, import the namespaces that we need in order for this controller to work. So I'm going to go to all red lines, click Control Dot on my keyboard, and import the necessary libraries and namespaces. Careful with the eye configuration so you don't accidentally import something from the AutoMapper library. This is common in projects that use the AutoMapper library. Of course, we also need to import the model. I'm gonna comment out anything that has to do with the user for now, but we are going to get back to that once we are ready to authenticate, and that will happen in a later video. For now, we just want to get started and finish the to-dos controller, a very early version of the to-dos controller, as fast as possible. Of course, don't forget to also import Entity Framework Core, otherwise database operations aren't gonna work. Again, I'm gonna comment out all these sections that have to do with the user in the put method as well. We're not gonna include the user when fetching the first to do. Also, we don't need to check. Obviously, this will make the methods unable to work to the standards that we've set, but for now, we just want our project to be able to build without errors. So we're gonna get back to that once we're ready to retrieve the user from the token. And we're not very far away from that, but it's just a topic for another video. Also, exclude the mail service from now because we still haven't created the email microservice. It's the 3rd service that we will be creating in a future video. Again, I'm going to remove the include statement from this query and comment out this section as well. Again, when we delete a to-do, we send over an email. I'm gonna comment this out because we no longer have a mail service. Our mail service is a separate microservice that we will query with our HTTP client in a future video.